Hey, welcome to another episode of White Lithium Eurotrash. I've completed the nearly 1,000-mile drive to Minneapolis in the Saab 900. Didn't really get very much good video, but that's all right. The people of Minnesota just love seeing that Saab. That's such Saab country. But we got another thing going on here today. So this week is spring break for my daughter, and who is 9. And we are going to take a trip to pick up a Saab engine from Ben Crowan, who is at Saab Sickness. Okay, he sells parts and whatnot. Because I do believe I will have need to rebuild a Saab engine at some point for, you know, the 8-valve cars or whatnot. But we're gonna take this Volvo 240 wagon, and we're gonna carry that engine back from Idaho in that. But I've got a really big problem because this is going to be 24 hours of driving each way. This car is in perfect condition to do this, right? I did that fuel pump that you guys all saw, my now 44 viewers. And I got the front end all sorted. We've got the new ball joints, the new tie rod ends. We had it aligned. We had the new brake calipers on there because, you know, it was so floppy in there before that it actually warped the rotors. And so it's just in great condition there. We're in good shape for this drive, but other than the thing where the rubber meets the road, this seat, okay, is completely gone. And actually the back of the seat is completely gone too, but I don't have any foam to fix that for right now. So I'm gonna try and pull this seat out and repair the springs with these parts that I got from IPD, and hopefully it'll make it a little bit more comfortable. Otherwise, I don't know, I'm gonna have back surgery before this drive is up. Just gonna give a little tour around this car while I'm letting it warm up because I had to start it to give myself some space. Originally bought this car off eBay for I think $3,500. Have done, you know, it's a good fundamental car, rust-free car, had a really good original underbody. It's gotten, let's see, you know, it's had a timing belt, it's had an AC compressor, some new spark plugs, it's had a mass airflow sensor, which I believe is still problematic. I don't think it was a new one that was put on there. I think it was a used part that I put on there. I just did the idle air control valve. We've, let's see here, what else have we done to this? We just put in that, it's got the big diameter IPD exhaust. This header actually came from Sweden. That stainless downpipe, the down tube rather, stainless down tube came from Sweden. It does not currently have a catalytic converter installed on it. These braces from IPD actually make a surprising difference. And yeah, good, solid, good running car. Front suspension has been completely gone through. It doesn't leak anything. Just did that transmission fluid, put the AMSOIL synchromesh fluid in there. I think we're gonna, you know, we'll pull off the headrest maybe, put a piece of plywood down, and then this should easily haul that engine right there. Yeah, so good car that I'm going to, of course it's a 5-speed, which is pretty rare, you know. Had to do a bunch of interior stuff, get these right here, those little map pockets, got these grills for the speakers. I think I changed out the speakers too. Interior is all in all in extremely good condition. Dash is cracked. I think this was a Virginia car originally, but it has that same problem that these always do. The wire is broken right here, so my rear windshield wiper doesn't work. It has a speedometer problem, which I might, if I get a head of steam, dig into here today. Okay. This is gonna end up being one of those things where I'm gonna take this seat off and I'm going to see a bunch of other things like, oh, I will discover why the heated seats don't work, and that will annoy me, and it will end up turning into, oh no, we need an extension. The guy who sold it to me on eBay, of course, was Eastern European, because who else would one buy a Volvo wagon from on eBay? But he had originally kind of like had this idea that he was gonna turn this into some sort of like off-roader with like a lift kit, and then he just lost the will to work on the Volvo, and his loss is my gain. Don't get me wrong, there are times when I think to myself, wouldn't it be nice to just drive a normal car? But, you know, pretty soon I'm not even going to have a normal car. I'm only going to have these. Okay, of course, you're stripped out. Oh, there we go. Okay. The whole stud came out. Whatever. All right, so there we go. We got a seat loose. Let's see here. Oh, and we've got decomposing foam. We'd expect that. Ooh, a whole quarter. Nice. That'll cover this job. Oh, wires, where do you go? There's a connector right there for my heated seats, which obviously don't work because, you know, Bogdan never felt the need to make them work. All right, well, we've got the seat out. Pretty easy to tell why it's collapsed, because these springs in front are completely broken, not holding anything up. That one's not even attached over there. Okay, so I guess we got to get this thing out and get that thing on. Well, if we look closely, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 springs on this web. And the ones towards the front of the seat are the long springs. The ones towards the back of the seat are the short springs. So I didn't really get an instruction with this. I'm going to install this so that this side of this piece is to the front and this bent leg part of it is to the back. Then I think I'm going to hook the back springs on here to keep them from coming off. You know, if I was a smart person, I would have thought ahead and gotten some foam, which I think you can get from a few different places. I know there's a place called Swedish Car Parts that has it, and I would have done this job correctly, but of course, this is not the intelligent quality end of the automotive YouTube market. This is the lousy end. Okay, so here's a problem right off the bat. Here is the original spring where the legs are mounted or are at 90 degrees to each other, which is what makes sense with the way that this thing would go. Here's the original Volvo part that I've gotten as a replacement where they are not, this is not the case, okay? So that's actually kind of a bit of a problem because you're gonna put a lot of strain onto this part. I'm contemplating reusing the original springs, actually. The way that I'm doing that is, once again, going with the trusty old hose removal, general purpose, solve every problem, and I'm kind of getting under the spring, getting over here and hooking it under like that. It's quite difficult to do, I have to say. It's a real challenge. If you don't have, I don't think you're gonna do this job with just a set of pliers. I think you need some sort of tool like this. All right, well, we got that on. Let's sit down on it and see if it all holds. Okay. Let's get a feel for what it's gonna feel like. Okay. It's a lot better. Yeah, it's a lot better. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. Let's tip it over and make sure all those springs held when I put my knot inconsequential body mass on top of it. All right, they've all held. That's good. These wires, I'm not even going to re-hook up the seat heaters yet because I know they're not going to work and there's no point. And they haven't ever worked, so that is for another day. All right, let's put this thing back together and get it back in the car. You know, anybody that follows my content knows that I have such a passion for Saab, right? I just love Saab. But again, you know I design farm equipment for a living. And to me, Volvo is almost like farm equipment. You know, look at this seat design, okay? You have these 3 adjustments at the back of the seat. Who even knows that this lever is hiding there under the seat? You've got another lever in the front. So this is like your tilt and height adjustment in 2 separate sets of discrete adjustments. So obviously it's not something you're going to do super often because you have to get out of the car, stick a hand under the back of the seat to do an adjustment. But it just is emblematic of the type of simplicity in the design ethos that Volvo embodies, you know? Wow, that stuff doesn't really want to come off there that well, does it? This foam is really on there. That's all right, we'll get it as best we can. We'll get it as best as we can. All right, let's get this all back in here. But how shall we get it? Okay, let's get some driving impressions on this IPD Volvo 240 seat fix. Especially imperative because I think that this, you know, the previously mentioned Eastern European guy that I bought the car from on eBay, I think he installed some like overly stiff springs and shocks, those Bilstein heavy duty shocks in the rear, and then didn't get around to doing the front. But yeah, it's really stiff in the rear, and eventually I'm going to like put some new stuff back there. But you know, in the short term, it might actually help as we lug this 8-valve Saab 900 motor back from Boise, Idaho, to have a little bit more spring support in the rear axle. But it makes it really, over bumpy roads, it makes it really uncomfortable. And I gotta say, these springs, okay, so there were 8 total springs under there before. Obviously the wire little frame thing was broken, but only, I believe, 4 of which were connected. The middle 4 were connected before I did this update. It was basically unbearable for me to drive the car. The idea that I would drive it 24 hours in 2 12-hour segments or 3 8-hour segments, we haven't decided yet, is just unthinkable. And this has made a big improvement. Now, would it be better had I replaced the foam? Obviously. Do I need to replace the foam on the rear so I get some lumbar support? Yeah, obviously, but I'm pretty happy with what this has done, and I think it's gonna give me a chance to actually, you know, reasonably drive this car without basically causing myself bodily injury as I do it. Here, let me give you guys a little dose of it. Don't worry about that check engine light. That's no big deal. Okay. That's a nuisance check engine light. Now, the question of what is actually causing the check engine light, that's kind of a different thing. My gut feel is that it is the mass airflow sensor again. Or it you know, it's one of the two things. It's basically, it's telling me that the you know, air fuel ratio is not correct, or it's not, the O2 sensor is not getting into the optimum range. Now, the car is running well, it's idling well, it is idling smoothly, it doesn't smell like it's running super rich, I'm getting pretty good gas mileage, so I'm not gonna go, I just put, you know, an O2 sensor on it before, but the O2 sensor might have very well actually been fouled by the rich running condition that was actually caused by the idle air control valve being mysteriously disconnected under the hood. Okay, so my theory is that the O2 sensor, even though it's basically brand new, has actually gone bad because it was just getting flooded with unburned fuel before, with that unstable idle. You know, disconnect your idle air control valve sometime on this car and see what happens. It's like woo, 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 and it just farts fuel directly into the exhaust system. So yeah, pretty happy with this result. Definitely, I think pretty much every Volvo 240 that's been used, this car, we don't know how many miles are on it. The odometer hasn't worked for a while. I'm gonna maybe pop my head under here and see if I can figure out where the sender is. Never was the most important thing to deal with on the car until now, but yeah, I mean, it broke at 202,000, so Lord only knows how many miles are actually on the car.